Hi, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Political Forum, the show where you can call in and talk live with elected officials in Chicago. Now, my name is Mike Jacobson. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications here at CAN-TV, and joining me tonight from the 25th District, State Representative Barbara Flynn Currie. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for having us. All right, so for the next 25 minutes, this is your time to call in. If you have a comment, if you have a question or a concern, you can call in and talk with State Representative Currie. The number at the bottom of the screen, 312-738-1060, 312-738-1060. And also, please tell your friends and family that they can also watch this online at cantv.org/hotline. So, State Representative Currie, let's first talk to us about yourself for folks who may not know you, and we'll also get a little something about your district, too.
All right, I've been in the legislature for a number of years. I don't like to say how many, for fear that someone will want to term limit me, but I do describe myself as a veteran lawmaker. I'm from the mid-south side of the city. My district abuts Lake Michigan, and it includes parts of the communities of Kenwood, Hyde Park, South Shore, Woodlawn, South Chicago, and a little bit of the east side.
Actually, we can show a little bit of your district right here. Put it up right here, so there it is right there for folks. And also, we also have your information concerning how people can get a hold of you right here.
Right. This is not the only place you can call me. You can call me in my district office, and I believe the telephone number is there. You can also stop by and visit. We like it when you do that. We like it when you visit. We like it when you call.
Very good. Okay, so we have a lot of things to talk about tonight, a lot of things happening within the state. First, let's talk about our new governor.
Okay.
Bruce Rauner just was, first of all, he was sworn in office last week, first time in 12 years that we've had a Republican governor. So in your mind, what does he have to do to make some real progress in Illinois?
Well, I think we do have serious fiscal problems, and he certainly is going to have to address those. We have problems that have been many years in the making, been made by governors who've been Republican as well as governors who've been Democratic, legislatures that were dominated by the GOP, legislatures that were dominated by the Democrats. So it's not a question of blaming, it's not a question of casting asparagus one way or the other. It is a question of rolling up our sleeves, getting to work, and seeing if we can't work our way out of this problem. And of course we can. We've had problems before, and we have fixed those problems. We've solved them. It takes time, it takes patience, but we'll get it done.
Well, it looks like we have our first caller tonight. Caller, are you there?
Hi, yeah, so it sounds like your district is down on the south side now. There's some sort of controversy going on down there right now with the Obama Library.
Right, there's been, unfortunately, I missed, there were two public hearings last week, and unfortunately, they happened just at the time that the new legislature was being sworn in Springfield. So I wasn't able to be there myself. I have heard people talk about what did happen at those hearings. Large numbers of people were there enthusiastically supporting a library, even if it meant taking some parkland. There also were many people who felt that perhaps the university could find some territory for building this wonderful legacy for our president that did not include parkland. I have not seen drawings. I don't think drawings are yet available, but I think it's a question how you best meet the needs for a legacy that is very important to the South Side. This is our president, and we want him. At the same time, we minimize any disruption to public space, to open space.
Thank you for that call, caller. So let's get back now talking about what's going on. Obviously, in General Assembly, what are some of the priorities? For instance, like the pension crisis, where do we stand on that right now?
We're waiting for a court ruling. Actually, I think there still are arguments to be made before the Illinois Supreme Court. A lower court said that the pension protection language in the 1970 state constitution means that the changes the legislature adopted are not constitutional. Whether the Illinois Supreme Court will uphold that ruling or whether they will agree with Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan that the legislature had very little choice if we want to maintain our responsibilities to vulnerable, fragile populations, to school children, to the elderly in nursing homes. We have very little choice but to make some changes in the pension program. Otherwise, we're just plain out of money. So the idea is that the exigencies of other spending needs means that the court should be willing to balance several of the phrases in the Constitution against one another and upholds the program the legislature approved. If the court does, that will make a major difference over time in terms of the fiscal soundness, the sanity of Illinois state government.
Now, it's all through the news. You have the pension crisis. People are talking about they can't find jobs. So a lot of people are scared. Like, is Illinois okay? Is this a place where I should raise a family? So what do you tell for people about this? This is always in the news and in the papers.
Yeah, but I think that, yes, we do have problems, and I would not minimize them, not for a minute. But we have shown, the legislature, the governors, one party, the other party, all parties, have shown over time that we can solve our problems. We will solve this fiscal problem, and in the meantime, Illinois is a great place to bring up a family. Wages in Illinois tend to be a lot higher than wages are in our surrounding states, no question about it. Illinois, among the states, has the lowest state workforce per capita. So it's not as if we're high-riding spendthrift, let's just let it all hang out and take the taxpayers' money and dribble it away, dribble it there. No, a very, very conservative number of people actually work full-time for the state of Illinois. Wages for Illinois citizens tend to be great, much better than the average wage in Indiana, in Kentucky, and the other states that border us. Wonderful schools. And when you look at businesses, my recollection is that one of the major economic magazines pointed out that Illinois is a place where the big companies, the Fortune 500, the Fortune 100 companies want to locate. Why? Because we have wonderful schools, great amenities. We've got the Bears, we got the Cubs, and we got the White Sox. And we have a quality workforce, a workforce that means you can hire people who are going to be able to do the job that you're bringing. So I wouldn't take second seat to anybody in extolling the virtues of life in the great state of Illinois.
Well, it looks like we have another caller. Caller, are you on the line?
Hi, how you doing?
Very well. Do you have a question or comment?
Yes, I do. The governor said he would support the minimum wage increase as long as it's a solid call for businesses. I'm just curious, could you expand on that?
Well, I don't know what the governor had in mind. I heard him say that very thing. He started out in the campaign saying that he was opposed to an increase in the minimum wage. Then he said perhaps he could be for it, but it would have to be coupled with some kinds of changes that would be good for business. I don't know what those might be. We're waiting for him to tell us. I would tell you, I think that a boost in the minimum wage is very good for business. If people are bringing home an adequate salary, a salary that can keep the roof over the head, can keep the food on the table, they are more likely to be happy in their work. They're more likely to be loyal to their workplace. So good, strong employers understand that keeping a workforce happy, keeping a workforce able to make ends meet is the best way to keep a competent workforce and keep one that wants to stay on the job.
Thank you for that call, caller. It looks like we have another call. Caller, are you there?
Hi, thank you. I'm always concerned when a Republican comes into office about spending cuts. I want to know what will the representatives do to make sure that there won't be drastic cuts to human services.
Well, first of all, I share your priority, and I have spent my years in Springfield trying to protect human service spending and education spending. These, I think, are vital concerns for the state legislature, and I hope the new governor will share my priority. I hope he'll share your priority. At the moment, we are looking at, as I said earlier, a pretty serious fiscal situation, and there probably will need to be some cuts as well, absolutely, as revenue increases. The question is, how deep are those cuts and where are those cuts felt? I will do my best to see to it that programs, for example, like support for child care, to keep working families working, that's not a place where we cut, that we do not cut the welfare system. Our social safety net is already pretty threadbare. It's pretty thin. And I think we cannot afford to erode those kinds of protections any further. So my job in Springfield in this coming budget year is to make sure that we are protecting to the extent we can the most vulnerable, fragile populations that are the responsibility of state government, because these are people with problems who cannot turn anyplace else.
Thank you for that call, caller. Now, again, if you need to get a hold of State Representative Barbara Flynn Currie, here is the way that you can. There is her number, 773-667-0550, and also you can go to her website at barbaraflynncurrie.org. Looks like now we have yet another caller. We're very busy
Oh, I
tonight.
like it. I like it. Like I said, come by the office, too. We like your visits.
Caller, are you there?
Hello, how you guys doing?
Very well,
Hi.
thank you.
Yeah, a few things. I wanted to touch on first. I heard some issues about the from the Obama Library on the south side. Am I correct?
You are. The University of Chicago is a finalist with two proposals. One that would be sort of just east of Hyde Park Career Academy. The other would be just west of Washington Park, on and around Garfield Boulevard.
Okay.
At the same
now,
time,
that will be a big issue because I stay in the Hyde Park area. Okay.
Okay.
And it's going to cost us a lot of money. I mean, why didn't y'all put a George Bush?
Why did what?
Looks like we lost that call.
Oh, sorry if we lost you. As I said earlier, there is some controversy over the use of parkland. I do think most of the people in the area on the south side of Chicago would very much welcome an Obama library. I think we want his legacy. I think we think he's ours, the first African American president of this country, and I think that people feel pretty proprietary. Again, there's controversy about the use of parkland. That's a separate issue, but I think that when it comes to the question, do we want it? I think the answer is we do.
Very good. Well, thank you for that call, caller. And if you need to, you can please call back. The number at the bottom of the screen, 312-738-1060, 312-738-1060. Looks like we have about 12 minutes left in the show. So please, everyone, please call in. So now let's talk about something that's actually getting some national headlines here about Illinois, and something good. Illinois is now looking to be the first state in the nation to have an automatic retirement program, and it's looking to kick off at about 2017. So let's talk about this.
Okay, I was the House sponsor. Daniel Biss, our state senator, who represents Evanston, Wilmette, some of the other North Shore territory, spearheaded the issue in the state Senate. We had strong support from AARP, from the Woodstock Institute, the Shriver Center. The issue is this. Social Security was never meant to be the sole source of income in retirement. And yet for many people, that's all they've got. The average Social Security payment in this country is about $15,000. Well, that means there are lots of people who have more than $15,000 a year, but a lot who have less. You can't, I think, live comfortably on $15,000 a year, and if your actual payment is more like $8,000, $9,000, $7,000, you got problems. Many people have access to an employer-supported retirement program. Or maybe if they don't have a pension through the workplace, at least they have the chance to save through an IRA on the job. The reality is if you don't have the chance to save on the job, you're not likely to save on the job at all. What this measure will do is to say that if you work for a company, if you're on the job, they don't offer any kind of savings at work, then they're going to have to offer you the chance to automatically opt in to a savings program. We set the default at 3% of salary, but every worker has the chance to say, I don't want to participate at all, or take a little more from my savings, or take a little less. So this is brand new. No other state is this far along with plans for the secure choice, the Illinois version of Social Security. This will take a year or two to implement, but I'm hopeful that at the end of the day, the fact that people would have to opt out means that we will have much greater participation than we would with any kind of program that just says, here, you can sign up if you want to. And I think in the long run, it will make an enormous difference to the security, the financial security of our retirees.
Yeah, because what I see here, I see two issues. Number one, people that you have to opt out of it, because a lot of people aren't thinking about doing this, about, at age 25, age 30, thinking about retirement. And number two, a lot of people, they churn their job. They go a 2-year job, then they move to 2 years, go to another job, 2 years to another job. So talk about that.
Right, well, exactly. These accounts will go with you. When you move from job A to job B, you get to take your money with you, and that money will stick with you all the way until you do decide to retire. The first point you made about opting out rather than opting in, everything tells us that if you're in a program where you have to sign up, where you have to say, I'm going to think this through, I'm going to sign up. People don't. It's too hard. They're not sure what their options are. Besides, if you're a lower income person and you're living from paycheck to paycheck, you don't want to give money away from that paycheck. You want to be able to spend it. Let's go to a movie on Friday night, honey. But the reality is that these are people at the end of the day who are not going to be secure in their retirement. And what we find is that if you automatically are opted in, 70 to 83% of the people will stay in. Whereas if it's only an option that you have to sign up for, participation will be well under 50%. So this is government helping people help themselves. And in fact, the idea for this kind of approach to retirement security came from the Conservative Heritage Foundation, even though we didn't have a lot of support from Republicans in the Illinois legislature. The roots behind the proposal are very much consistent with the conservative Republican tradition. Government should help people help themselves. This is not a government handout. Government puts no money into the program. This is all about individuals using their own resources to provide a strong, fiscally stable security for themselves.
And the 3%, is this can a person who's in this program choose to give more, give less?
You can opt out, you can stay in the program and stay at the default 3% option. You could put in more, you could put in less. Some analysts think that 3% is too low, that we really ought to have gone higher, but it's a trade-off. It's hard to know what exactly is going to work, what will be not take so much money out of my paycheck that I really can't figure out how to make ends meet unless you take out less. So we're trying 3%. As I say, this is the first program of its kind in the nation, and I hope that we first of all succeed, and second, I hope that if there are changes that need to be made in order for it to be more effective, that we'll make those changes. The whole point is to say that people in their retirement years should not be living hand to mouth. That's not what this country should be about. And here's a way that we can help people make sure that their retirement years are a little more golden than they are, off the chart.
Now, we talked about minimum wage before this, so we're talking about retirement, with this program, but minimum wage, where do we stand right now? Because I know that it passed the Senate looking at the House?
The Senate in the last session of the General Assembly, in I think the early part of either in December or in January, the Illinois State Senate did approve an increase in the minimum wage. The House never got to that item on its agenda. Now we're in a brand new assembly. We were sworn in last Wednesday, January 14th. So it's a brand new assembly, and that means all the bills will start from scratch. So if there is action on a minimum wage proposal in this new assembly, the 99th General Assembly, it'll have to pass the House, and it will have to, in identical form, pass the Senate again as well.
Okay, well, it looks like we have another caller. Caller, are you on the line?
Good evening. I'm not for raising the minimum wage. Why not have training where people can go for a better job, where they can make more money? And that'd be way much better, and people could command their own salaries.
Well, I agree that we need more training programs, and I certainly support those. But I also think that the laborer, the worker, should be worthy of his hire. And the idea that we are paying people the kinds of money that means they cannot successfully keep a roof over the head and food on the table, that is not the American way. If we had kept the minimum wage increasing over time the way it was 15 or 20 years ago, it would be double what it is today. I think there's nothing wrong with saying there should be a minimum wage, and I think our minimum wage is past overdue for improvements. I think the feds need to do it too, and I'm hopeful that they will, but not very hopeful with the new Republican majorities in both the United States House and the United States Senate. Still, it is an issue that's out there, and I hope that we'll continue to talk about it.
Looks like we have about 5 minutes left in the show, so if you have a question, comment, or concern, please call in. The number at the bottom of the screen, 312-738-1060, 312-738-1060, and thank you for that previous call. All right, so let's talk about something else, a recent legislation or something that you looked at, having to do with the juvenile transfer program. They're looking at not raising the age.
Right. It used to be in Illinois until about 2 years ago that youngsters, people who were 17, could be, after they were found guilty of a crime, they could then be moved into adult jails. That's not a good place for kids. So in fact, what we did was we raised the age, saying that up to the age of 18, if you're found guilty and you are sentenced to some period of incarceration, you're sent to the slammer for a period of time, you will serve that sentence in the juvenile system. The reason this is important is that kids are kids. They are kids. They are not grown-ups. They don't have the same capacity for judgment. They don't have the same rational approaches to the world as adults do, and they should not be thrown into a circumstance where they're living day in and day with people who are older and better able to make judgments even though they didn't make good ones. So we know from the literature that if youngsters go into the adult setting, they are far more likely to come out of prison when their sentence is finished, far more likely to come out as hardened criminals, far more likely to commit another crime and go right back into the slammer a second time, a third time, and a fourth. If instead they're treated in the juvenile prison, if that's where they do their stay, they are much more likely to lead a straight, clean life after they've served their punishment, and that's a good thing. I also think we need to change the law so that we don't transfer so many juveniles to adult court to make the determination whether they were innocent or whether they were guilty in the first place. Again, the juvenile court is there because we believe that juveniles really are kids. They have a different capacity to understand. They have a different emotional level. Cook County was the place where the very first juvenile court in this country was established, I believe in the 1890s. And the reason that it was established was because at that time people recognized that children were not just miniature adults. They come to the world, they come to decisions, they understand the world in a very different kind of way. They're far more emotional, far less reasonable, well, any of you who have had kids knows exactly what I'm talking about. So the idea that we should treat juveniles as juveniles, I think, is important, not just in terms of raising the age, which was really important, but also in making sure that they're not tried as adults in adult court.
Well, if you can believe, we've just started wrapping up the show. It already flew by. So do you have anything lastly that you'd like to tell our viewers?
Well, I think we're going to have a very interesting year in Springfield. The budget will be the most important thing to keep your eye on. I think there's no question that our fiscal problems are serious, but they are not so serious that we cannot work our way through them. Illinois is still a great place to live. It's a great place to raise kids. I wouldn't have reared my children any other state in the nation. Illinois was wonderful for them, and I would venture to say that it's good for all of us. So I appreciate this opportunity. You saw how you can reach me. Come by my office, 1303 East 53rd. Give us a phone call, 773-667-0550. I've enjoyed spending this time with you, and I hope I'll spend time with you again.
Well, thank you again for being on tonight. Thank you to Sylvia, who is answering the phones tonight. And thank you to you for tuning in, watching, and calling us tonight. Please tune in next week, same time, Wednesday at 7 p.m. for the next Political Forum. Have a good night, everybody.